not experience birth in the same way. Even intentional church plants may have different reasons for a church being started in a particular place. Each of these scenarios plays into the life stage of the church. Additionally, how the church grows determines its place on the life stage. A church can have a correct starting point, but head into struggle because its next steps are skewed, faulty, or even downright sinful. These specifics must come into focus when evaluating and considering church revitalization. I first encountered the need for church revitalization when I moved to Alabama to pastor a large but declining church in a transitioning community. White flight was becoming the norm. Deep-seated racism was rooted in the hearts of many people on both sides of the issue. One of the things that alarmed me the most was watching some of the largest churches of the 1950s close their doors in the 1990s. It seemed the only ones that could survive were those that relocated, and even some of them waited too late. I could see that scenario playing out in the church that I now served. To be honest, the only reason that I went there was because I sensed a deep call from God to go and help that church. It was, for me at least, a Macedonian call. The church was an intentional church plant in 1955. The reason, however, is suspect. Presumably, another church in the same general area did not want people of a different economic status to attend their church. Therefore, they started this church for these people from the other side of the tracks. That perspective and history permeated the church. Some of the resistance, hesitancy, and distrust could be understood when viewed through the lens of the past. Everybody seemed to know it, but nobody wanted to talk about it. The condition of the church, candidly, was above my pay grade. I had not been trained how to pastor a church that should have been climbing the growth side of the bell curve, but instead was struggling both on the outside and on the inside. In fact, the pastor search committee took me to the next suburb over to show me houses. I knew there were issues because none of these people were going to drive to our church. I do not think the committee was being dishonest. I think it was symptomatic of the denial that many members were experiencing. The neighborhood was changing, and no one knew what to do about it. Thus, the need for a paradigm shift away from the traditional growth bell curve and toward a graphic that would better chart the various ways that churches grow, plateau, and decline was realized. One reason churches struggle in revitalization is that they approach the task through a cookie-cutter process. But churches, like people, are not all the same. The intention of ReClaimed Church with a new life stage process is to equip churches to discover their individual nuances, characteristics, and history that not only make them unique, but also give insight into why they are at this precise stage in their existence. Churches, regardless of their history, mistakes, or poor decisions, can redirect themselves into growth. The task is not an easy one, but church leaders must be committed to revitalizing churches and getting them healthy. It is important, if the evangelical church is going to reach the world with the gospel, that a church-planting revolution takes place. For that transformation to happen, churches must be healthy. Healthy churches plant healthy churches. Unhealthy churches do not plant unhealthy churches. They usually just die. The solution is to focus on church reclaimed. How do we take a church that is unhealthy and at the end of its life stage and get it on mission again? The answer is for the church to be reclaimed. The church, just like an old piece of furniture, can be reclaimed and have more value now than ever before. ReClaimed Church offers a process by which a congregation can reassess, rethink, realign, revise, and reaffirm its identity, strategy, vision, and goals in order to become a viable, growing church once again. This idea is not a magic formula. It is a process that can help a declining church rediscover its purpose and mission. The foundation for any church to be reclaimed is the Word of God and the preaching of the Word. Do not miss that fact. With preaching, though, comes careful application. Hayden Robinson wrote, "More heresy is preached in application than in Bible exegesis." With that